Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. It's that one day of each calendar month that has the numerology of 44 and 64, which are numbers that correspond with killing. And sadly, every single month when this day rolls around, there's suspicious deaths from the world of celebrity. Now, I'm about to talk about the death of Vera Lynn at 103 years old, and no one's going to blink an eye at this, but remember, we said to look out for the day she died this year. We said that back in April when Queen Elizabeth referenced her song, "We'll Meet Again," that came out in 1939 when World War II began. World War II began on September 1st, 1939. We write that date 9/1, kind of like 91 in the U.S., Vera Lynn is dead on her 91st day of her age, plus a whole lot more. What I'm going to talk about is there couldn't be a more perfect date to die on in relation to World War III, which has been talked about this year. It's been talked about in a number of ways. You'll recall at the start of the year, there was the conflict between the U.S. and Iran, and there were rumors of World War III. Since then, we've had the coronavirus worldwide pandemic where major publications have said that World War III is the war against germs, the coronavirus germs. So there's been this different chatter about World War this year. People who follow the internet closely, back around the same time Queen Elizabeth gave her speech, maybe a little before that in March, Google and Wikipedia posted the start date to World War III, and they posted that date as May 6th, which is already passed. But remember what did happen on May 6th. That was the day Donald Trump vetoed the War Powers Resolution Act, limiting his power to start war with Iran. He vetoed that on the day that Google and Wikipedia said at the beginning of the year would be the start date of World War III. So we're going to get to why this death of this singer, who's remembered from the time of the start of World War II, why her death has everything to do with the encoding of World War III. And we're also going to talk about the death of JFK's only remaining living sibling, who's in the news today, but reportedly died yesterday. And I'm going to start with her death because it's a lot less to explain. And then we'll get to Vera Lynn's death, which is the more important of the two in terms of the symbolism. So, Jean Kennedy Smith, last surviving sibling of JFK, dies at 92. You could say she avoided the Kennedy curse, living to as long as she did, but in reality she didn't. If you've read my first book, there's a chapter in that book on all of the Kennedy family-related deaths up to the time of releasing the book. There's been a few since. And there's a big pattern in there with the number 63, like how JFK was killed in 63. She died yesterday, a date with 63 numerology, and Kennedy curse is 63. Again, big number with the pattern of deaths in the family. They say in the article her birthday was February 20th, and from her birthday to the day she died, June 17th, 118 days later, looks like I forgot to write the most important thing up here. Dallas, Texas, with the alphabetic order where JFK died equals 118. Dallas, Texas, 118. It's also 71, like Catholic is 71 with the alphabetic order and 35 with the alphabetic order in rules numerology. JFK is the only Catholic president to date. He was number 35. Notice when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Catholic's 46. JFK was killed at age 46, like the 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. Again, there's so many things that are very interesting about JFK's death. He was born on the 149th day of the year. That's the 35th prime, and the film made about his death, the Zapruder film, was 149, the 35th prime. They say Skull and Bones member George H.W. Bush was there that day. Skull and Bones has the 149 connection. They typically identify by the number 322, but if you watch a movie like Enemy of the State, you'll see he looks down at his watch at 1 hour and 49 minutes and says it's 322. Anyway, Dallas, Texas, 118, big death number. In Jewish GEMATRIA, death and homicide are 118. The TV show Numbers, which changes one of the letters to numbers in the title, the E's changed to a 3. That episode about solving crimes and murders, it ran 118 episodes before it was canceled. Always big number with death. So she dies 118 days after her birthday. JFK died in Dallas, Texas, 118 in 63. She dies on the 63 date numerology. Kennedy curse number. And then looking at her name, Jean Kennedy Smith, notice the gematria of 177, 69, and 84, the exact same as the Jesuit order. JFK died 177 days after his birthday. Born May 29th, dead November 22nd. And again, even outside of the base ciphers, like Jewish gematria, there are ciphers to know. Sumerian gematria, where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6. Again, when you write out JFK assassination, it's 187, like how he died in the 187th year of the nation's existence. And it's also 1122, like the date he died, November 22nd. And again, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Society of Jesus, within the Catholic Church, 187, homicide code. You know, his body was flown back to Washington, D.C., where the Jesuits have been longer than the nation's capital. Washington, D.C., 187. You know, George Washington with the alphabetic order, 187, and so on. So JFK dead in the 187th year of the nation's existence. Now, all these years later, his sister, his last living sibling, dead. And by the same numbers he died by. So do you really think she died naturally yesterday? I doubt it. For another 187, what the Jesuits have always used throughout history to kill people is arsenic. And when you write out arsenic poisoning, it's 187. See how it's 88 with the alphabetic order and rules numerology? Poison's 88. Poison's also 74. We're going to get to how Vera Lynn died 74 days after the Queen referenced her speech on April 5th, a date that can be written 5-4. Jesuit orders got the 54 in it. The Jesuits, the Catholic Church, they've controlled England since 1213. But that's what we were just saying with Jesuit order. Jean Kennedy Smith, JFK, only Catholic president, Catholic Church, Jesuits. So let's now talk about Vera Lynn. And again, just think about how it is. If you didn't know anything about the way the Cabal operates, and you didn't know that they're into numerology and gematria, you would see these stories today and you think, huh, that's interesting. 2 notable women died, both of older age and on the same day. You know? It's just like how they tell you in your history book. Jefferson and Adams both died on July 4th, 1826. Supposedly while writing letters to each other. It's like this Disney novel story in our history books. His story. And then 1,826 days later, remember they both died July 4th, 1826. So 1,826 days later, it lands you on July 4th, 1831, and James Monroe dies. So the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th presidents, they all die on July 4th, 7-4, the nation's birthday, and a big coincidence until you learn gematria and you realize holidays 74, Masonic 74, occult 74, killing 74. The Ides of March, to remember the killing of Caesar, remembered on the 74th day of the Gregorian calendar year, given to us by the Catholic Church. The Jesuit order, the Masonic order within the Catholic Church. So Vera Lynn, we said to watch out for her death because it would be symbolic. It couldn't be any more symbolic. Again, you can go back and watch it before they take down the channel. One more strike and it's gone again on Gematria Effect News. But you can go back and watch what we said in April about, she's this age. We just saw Kirk Douglas die at 103. We just called the Super Bowl winner pretty much in week 1 of the NFL season by recognizing the pattern with 103. Again, for people who forgot, Bart Starr, the Packers quarterback, died. And then 103 days later, the Packers opened the season against the Bears, and they won 10-3, 103 days. And then all season, you saw the State Farm commercial with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. State Farm equals 103. Patrick Mahomes had a huge 103 tribute. Aaron Rodgers had a whole bunch of 103 tributes. We were like, okay, Packers, Chiefs, that's Super Bowl 1. It's 50 years later. 103 is the 27th prime if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. The AFC and NFC will be tied at 27 teams apiece. And again, these were things that we unlocked before even the Sunday games of Week 1. This is what we were already on to after the opening Thursday night game that started last year's NFL season. Because again, the NFL and the world of professional sports within this same Masonic cabal, the same controllers that give you your news, give you your sports. It's all scripted together, been proven this ice cold 7 years straight. Anyway, let's look at everything about Vera Lynn's death today, June 18th, the date we said to circle a month ago. From the Queen's birthday. Remember, Prince died on her birthday the other year, April 21st, Prince on the Queen's birthday. We predicted Prince's death before it happened. He had the song I Would Die For You, and he spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U. Used the 21st letter, 421, I Would Die 421. He recorded that in 1983, 33 years before his death, on 421. And then the same day as his death, they lit up Niagara Falls purple, and there was confusion. Because people said, how can you already have this tribute to Prince with Purple Rain when you just announced his death 10 minutes ago? And the authorities kind of said, oh, no, it's not for Prince. It's for Queen Elizabeth. It's her birthday today. But what people didn't catch is where they did that in Niagara Falls was Vanity's hometown, Prince's girlfriend from the time of Purple Rain, which is how we predicted Prince's death because she died the day of the 58th Grammys. And Purple Rain equals 58. And they use this number all the time. Case in point, from the Queen's birthday to this woman's death. And again, the Queen just referenced this woman in her speech on April 5th. But from the Queen's birthday to the woman's death, 58 days. Queen of England, 58. London, England, 58. Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, Secret Society, they're all 58. King James, who was a Freemason and a Rosicrucian, died unexpectedly at age 58, who has the Bible named after him. Biblical's 58, Tetragrammaton's 58, the name of God. You got to believe in God to be members of these secret societies. Gregorian's 58, the calendar we're on. Calendar and Zodiac's 58, if you want to add to it. Solar cycle's 58. But with regards to the Queen being 94 years old, 94 right now. The woman who died today, her full name is Vera Margaret Lynn, 94. This comes during the time of the coronavirus pandemic. We talked about this in April. All these things because Queen Elizabeth was addressing the people of the world because of the pandemic. And 94 was a very big year for London, as we'll get to. 1694 is what I'm talking about. The City of London Corporation was formed, which equals 325. It's headed by the Bank of England, arguably the most powerful bank in the world, who's 325 years old. That's why the United States of America, which is owned by foreign bankers, on March 25th, Donald Trump, it was put on his desk to sign off on this trillions of dollars in stimulus, the world's biggest loan, which means the biggest profits ever, record profit off a loan for these banks. While they're 325 years old on 3/25, City of London Corporation, having a big old party. And that was 1694, the Tonnage Act. But check this out. With regards to that being the City of London, from the day that Queen Elizabeth gave her speech referencing Vera Lynn's World War II song to her death is 74 days later. And as we know, Kilding, London, Masonic, Occult, GEMATRIA, English, it's all 74. My brand new book that I'm writing right now. How do you think I'm beginning the book? By introducing people to GEMATRIA. Of course, I'm educating them with 74 because I tell them to just pay attention. You'll see this number almost every single day used ritualistically, and that's not an exaggeration. Again, Roman Catholicism, 74. The Roman Catholic Church is responsible for our calendar, the English language as we know it, the scripture as we know it, that they use as the script. Better yet, if you count the span of days from the speech to the death, instead of 74 days later, it becomes a span of 75 days. The first day of the speech is April 5th. The day of the death is the 75th day. And World War III with Roman numerals is 75. Order out of Chaos is 75. Always the agenda. New World Order is 75. The New York Times, run by Jesuits, on October 6th, 1940, a date with 75 numerology. The headline that day was New World Order Pledged to Jews. And I'll remind people that No Less news channel made fun of me for educating about this when supposedly he's trying to expose things. And then after making fun of that, making a big deal about what I said about 75 and the New World Order, About a year later, he releases a video called New World Order, and he released it on the day leaving 75 days left in the year. And he also just, no less news, just also tried to do a video on GEMATRIA on Donald Trump's 74th birthday, while Israel renamed the area Trump Heights from the Golan Heights that equals 74, as they brought back the Charles Schwab Classic, its 74th iteration, which concluded on Trump's 74th birthday, just how scripted all this stuff is. But anyway, with regards to all the 75 and the 75th day, which is something we talked about back in April with all the 75s, because we were pointing out how Queen Elizabeth was giving her speech on April 5th, 4-5, like how World War II ended in 1945, and how 2020 is 75 years after the end of World War II. And I guess I'll just go ahead and we'll get further to that point. But 4-5, 45, 1945. June 18th, the day this woman has died, is the 170th day in a leap year. And World War III equals 170. World War III, 170, when you spell out 3 as a word instead of use the Roman numerals. So with Roman numerals, you're covered from the speech that referenced her song, which had to do with World War, to the day she died. That's why today could not be any more, there's not a better day in the calendar year for this to happen. And what I wonder is, like, has anyone seen Vera Lynn recently? Do we know that Vera Lynn was even still alive at 103? You know what I mean? Was she still alive? Was Kirk Douglas still alive when he died? Remember how you guys missed my video on Kirk Douglas's death at 103. It was weird because somebody just called into the radio show like a week or two before that and mentioned Kirk Douglas. But that was all for the Joker movie and Joaquin Phoenix getting his award. It was all, which is all part of a bigger ritual too. Again, the Joker, Batman series, predictive programming, masks, what's going on right now in the world. Again, all this stuff, all this entertainment, recorded history, it is all in tune. It's like a big, grand, really twisted, sick orchestra, you know, being conducted by the cabal. So I was thinking, from the start of World War II to 2020, from 1939 to 2020 is 81 years later, and we know what 81 is. That's the ritual number. Ritual's 81. Forwards and backwards, with the alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order. It's 81 both ways. Not a lot of words that way. That's how we call it the ritual number. But I was thinking 2021 will be 82 years, and at the start of this year, there was a lot of headlines of Armageddon, from the threat with Iran and the U.S. to the coronavirus pandemic. The mainstream media has used that word Armageddon throughout the year, which we've covered. Again, if you guys are new here, I've put out, I think honestly I've put out over, I've had 3 channels deleted since the end of September. I think 2 of them deleted right at the start of this year. But I know on the one channel that has 2 strikes on it that I've been using this year, that channel already has almost 600 videos. And between the other channels, I mean, I've probably done at least 700 videos this year. So we've covered a ton of information for people who are new here. And again, it's all really redundant for a lot of people. But, you know, we broke down the Armageddon stuff. Pope, you know, one of the UK papers even wrote the prophecy of Malachi, how the 266th Pope, which is Pope Francis, will be the last Pope. He's the first publicly Jesuit Pope. The Jesuit motto equals 266. And remember when he came to the U.S. on September 23rd and spoke at the White House starting at 9:23 in the morning. That was the 266th day of the year. Whole lot more to it. But there's just been all this stuff and all this predictive programming. And think about entertainment for the last 10, 15 years. All the apocalyptic Earth, zombie scenarios. So anyway, this year, 2020, there's been all this stuff. And if you open up a deck of tarot cards, you know, and I'm not telling you to become like an occultist, but if you look up these tarot cards, you'll see the 19th card is the sun card. And remember, the sun and the moon, they have a 19-year sync with the Gregorian calendar. Every 19 years, the moon's in the same place in the sky that it was 19 years earlier. 19-year cycles. 2001, 9/11, an excuse for governments of the world to spy on their people, use technology to track them. 2020, 19 years later, a pandemic, governments of the world with new 5G internet technology, way more specific, way more powerful, way more everywhere. A much greater surveillance grid for 2020 with a new excuse. Instead of boogeymen, terrorists, and caves in the other part of the world, it's the virus you can't see with your own eyes. So 19-year cycles. The word chaos equals 19. The agenda is order out of chaos. World War II began on what date? September 1st, which can also be written 1-9, like 19. 19, COVID-19. It began at the end of 2019, and then it became a pandemic in 2020 on the most perfect day, March 11th, because coronavirus pandemic equals 113, like 11/3. So anyway, with more stuff coming to light, just all these agendas that are coming together, what weirds me out about Vera Lynn, her birthday, is it's March 20th, right? It's 3/20. And remember, the George Floyd thing that set off the world. He's killed in front of police cruiser number 320, right? 320. And then when they took him out of his vehicle, it was a Mercedes ML 320. So he gets out of a vehicle with a 320 on it. He gets killed by a police vehicle with a 320 on it. What are the odds of that? 1 in 320 times 1 in 320, that is a very unlikely probability. And the probability is even worse because if you took all the numbers on the back of cars that are a possibility, like the biggest one I can think of off the top of my head is a Porsche 911 Carrera, but 911. So 1 in 911 odds on the car number being 320 essentially. And on the back of a police cruiser, does it only go up to 1 in 320? No, I'm sure you can find a police cruiser with 911 on the back of it or even a bigger number. So again, the odds of both vehicles having 320 on the back, George Floyd's vehicle, his Mercedes, and the police cruiser, astronomical. So unlikely, but these things do happen sometimes in the world. It's just when stuff's in the news, it's always perfectly coordinated. Numbers are always front and center. So we've been watching this woman this year, and I'd forgotten that her birthday was 3/20, March 20th. And as I have been doing my decoding, I got to tell you, like, I'll see numbers that I just throw away because I don't know what it means. I've seen a lot of 203s. And I've been, because I keep seeing them, like, what's 203? That date can also be written 20/3. So, anyway, from her birthday to her death is 90 days later, or it's also a span of 91 days. And remember, her hit songs from 1939 when the World War II began on 9/1, September 1st. 13 weeks on the nose. We know about 13 in time and the moon and the hidden families, the cabal. But with regards to it being 90 days after her birthday, again, they're following all this biblical prophecy. They're using the scripture as the script. And I just want you to see how Holy Bible and our base ciphers. Again, if you're new here, there's 4 base ciphers: alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Holy Bible is 90 and 45. Again, the speech where her song was referenced was April 5th. The date can be written 4/5 or 5/4. And with regards to 153, that's the 17th triangular number. If you had 1 through 17 together, it's 153. God equals 17. El equals 17, the name for God of the Old Testament. Think of the miraculous catch of 153 fish, numbers that aren't explained in the Bible, but they have mathematical significance, like how the New Testament begins with Matthew and the 42 generations to Jesus, where New Testament equals 42, New equals 42, Math equals 42. So, these are rituals, and these are rituals that we said to look out for at the beginning of the year. Because if you go back and look at the post that we covered on April 5th, when the Queen did her address, we were talking about her song from 1939, the year of the Great War, how Vera Lynn's 39, how Great War's 39, talking about, again, World War I. And I'm going to connect here something in a moment. We've been talking about this new Hulu show about Catherine the Great who saved the Jesuits. So Catherine the Great, I've just been doing some research on her. By the way, her husband, for her to become the leader of Russia, her husband died on July 17th, 17/7, like 177. We were talking about that with JFK, who died 177 days after his birthday. The Jesuit Order. New World Order is also 177. Gene Kennedy Smith, 177. Catherine the Great was part of the build-up to, what eventually amounted to the World Wars. And Catherine the Great, she was born in Germany, educated in France, went to Russia, where she immediately annexed Poland. And when I just look at that, look at the start of World War I. On September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland from the west. 2 days later, France and Britain declared war on Germany, beginning World War II. So it's wow, her alone, she connects to, France, Germany, and Poland. And that's what they've been doing, you guys. They've been building the world a day at a time, agenda after agenda, with a greater agenda plan. It's like they're setting up all these dominoes, because once they have it all set up perfectly and then they tip the dominoes, then it creates the ritual that brings them the next outcome they want. It's like what's going on in this world day after day. And we were talking about in that post to watch out for May 6th in light of the name of her song, We'll Meet Again, which is 127. May 6th was the 127th day of 2020. Pearl Harbor was on December 7th, 12/7, 127. 9/11 in New York was buildings 1, 2, and 7. These things led to war. Some people even say what started with 9/11 is really the beginning of World War III, and we've been in it all this time. It's never stopped. It's just going to get bigger. Buildings 1, 2, and 7. Pearl Harbor. They called it the new Pearl Harbor 9/11. But we were talking about watch out for that date, May 6th, and we weren't wrong to look out for it, because that was the day that Trump vetoed the Iran War Powers Resolution to limit his power from starting war with Iran. And that was 56 days after March 11th, the day the pandemic was declared, and the date that the War Powers Resolution was passed by the Congress. And they had said at the time of the Soleimani death that at least 56 people were trampled at his funeral. So we've been following that 56 since the start of the year. Soleimani, 56. 56 days later, he rejects the War Powers Resolution in Washington, D.C., 56. Of course, coronavirus is 56. Society of Jesus, 56. The Soleimani headline. The Google Wikipedia write-up about the start date of World War III with Iran, between the Iran and the United States on May 6th. So obviously, World War III... Well, that's the way history is, though. Let's say that World War III... Imagine if they did it to us on September 11th and how people would just think it was a coincidence again. But let's just say that happened. Let's just say they started World War III on September 11th, 2020. Some historians would say, this happened today, but when this really began was May 6th, when Donald Trump vetoed this power that was trying, or this resolution that was trying to limit his power. So you could argue that May 6th was the real start date in 2020. And then when you're awake to all this knowledge, you're like, God, look at all what they did, man. Look at all that they did that year. They made, the Soleimani thing 56. They made coronavirus 56. They made the George Floyd thing 56. They made everything 56. Unemployment 56. Interest rates 56. There's parts of the world right now that are dealing with negative interest rates. To keep their money in the bank, they have to pay the bank every money. That's what negative interest rates are. Going on in parts of the world. It could come to the U.S. eventually. Banks, they're scams. But, that was a span of 119, or no, it was 119 days after the Soleimani killing that Trump did that as well, and Donald's 119 and Star of David and Vatican and, this thing from before he was president with talking to the digital sheep, 11 and 9 on pillars, straight mockery. Yeah, I wanted to get on here and share about this. This is a big story. I mean, as sad as it sounds to say, I've been waiting for them to report this woman's death to see if we were on the right track with it being symbolism for World War. The only thing now that remains to be answered is World War III already ongoing? Is it already what they've done? The wars on terrorism, the wars on the virus that have changed our way of life? I mean... But again, it could get a lot worse, and that's what people need to realize. Again, the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones. Been there since March 22nd, 322. Skull and Bones, Bavarian Illuminati, 322. It's been there since March 22nd, 1980. Speaking of Bavarian Illuminati, that equals 80. Their founder died on the 322nd day of the year. But they've been there since March 22nd, 1980. First rule out of the 10 rules etched on these massive stones, translated in 10 languages, is limit the Earth's population, maintain the Earth's population at 500 million. That would be getting rid of 13 out of 14 people living today. And for one last thing, 2024 will mark the 44-year anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones. I'm telling you. If we don't stop this cabal, I'm telling you, 2024, it's probably a year we're not going to want to see. And I'm going to explain why. Again, this woman is dead on this 64-44 date. Kill equals 64 and 44. Military's 44. So is soldier. So is infantry. So is officer. So is shooting. Again, kill 44-64. Remember, in the most pure cipher, the blue one, alphabetic order with the rules numerology. Georgia's 44. See how George is 62 with the alphabetic order? Floyd is 62. They went from the Ahmaud Arbery killing in Georgia to George Floyd to then another killing back in Georgia on 6/12 after George Floyd was killed in the 612 area code in Minneapolis when police equals 612 in Sumerian. But Georgia 44, and then worse yet, genocide 44. And you know, you guys, I am quite certain, based on the information. Oh, they also bring up about how in 1944, Vera Lynn traveled to the troops during the time of World War, now dead on the 44 date. The mockery. They do it every month. But, shoot, I lost my train of thought. I forgot the point I was going to make. So to stick there on my forgotten thought, just to go back to this show, The Great, that just came out on Hulu on May 15th. Specific date, Coronavirus 155. People have let me know that the show is set in the time of a smallpox outbreak. Viruses, smallpox, coronavirus, the coming virus. Again, Catherine the Great we've been talking about. She saved the 201 Jesuits after they were banned by the Pope, after the Jesuit order was banned by the Pope, July 21st, 1773, she defied the Pope and preserved the 201 Jesuits in her country. Event 201 was the coronavirus outbreak simulation. The Jesuit order equals 201. Ignatius of Loyola equals 201, their founder. The Pope's birth name, the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201, and a whole lot more. May 6th was 201 days after Event 201. Confederate equals 201. George Perry Floyd 201. Anyway, this woman saved the 201 Jesuits. Now there's a show about her, strangely enough, called The Great, which equals 84 and 42, like Jesuits 84 and 42. World Wars 42. Wars 42. The Great in reverse is 132, like Catholic Church. The actress they got, Ellie Fanning, 54, like Jesuit order, like Adolfo Nicholas, the Black Pope of the Jesuits who just died, known as the Superior General, who just died at age 84, and Superior General's 84. John Carroll, who founded the first Jesuit university in the U.S., Georgetown, did it while he was 54 years old. John Carroll, 54. Again, right now you have the big protest going on in Seattle next to one of the nation's limited Jesuit universities on Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill, another 54. And by the way, when the pandemic began, Vera Lynn, her birthday is March 20th. The pandemic began March 11th. That's when it was declared. She was 102 then. And remember, social distancing's 102, World War's 102. They compared this to the Spanish flu that began in 1918, 102 years earlier. The Civil War began on the 102nd day of the year. The American Civil War, April 12th, 1861. The market 1 week ago fell 1,861 points. That was last Thursday. George Perry Floyd 102. It's brought NASCAR, a Southern sport, to ban the Confederate flag from the South in the Civil War. The Catholic Church came in and bought up Washington, D.C. and made it an independent territory after the Civil War that was likely financed by the church to divide the nation so that they could buy the nation's capital, which has been an independent territory ever since, controlled by foreign interests. But with regards to Catherine the Great, she's also 94. Just like how the Queen's 94 right now, and England is beholden to the Catholic Church since the Treaty of 1213. Ellie Fanning's born April 9th, the date written 94. Terror is 94. World Trade Center 94. They opened on April 4th, 1973, the 94th day of the year. They were built by the firm out of Seattle, Washington, which equals 94. 94, the year Bill and Melinda got married in the pandemic ritual. Two of the big faces of Event 201. Building Jesuit high schools at the time, plus about a million more things. So, anyway, you guys, I'm going to go back to writing the book. And yes, the book is getting longer than I intended because of everything happening. But it's okay, because all of that I've put in the book needs to be in there. All of this stuff needs to be understood because it becomes undeniable. And yes, today's news is going to have to be tucked in there too. So it's going to take me a little bit longer than I anticipated. It's fine though, because the book's going to be finished. It's going to get out there. The world's not going to end. The agenda is going to get bad. But, you know, remember, in the time of the world wars, humanity survived. Humanity went on. But they transitioned the world with these world wars. They transitioned people. It's like they plan ages. This is going to be the age of farming. This is going to be the age of, you know, factory work. So this is going to be the age of part factory worker, part automation. This is going to be the age of almost full-on automation with just people taking care of the automation. This is how we're being transitioned. And they got all these rituals along the way. But again, if I do this book right the first time, and there will be updated editions of it, but if I do it right the first time and the word gets out like it needs to, then we'll have the people who understand, the masses, you know, a critical mass to make a change. And that's the whole goal. And I still think the change can be made. Yeah, we are deep in the game, but to me, it also shows that, you know, the cabal, they are very afraid right now of the awake people, because look at the level of censorship. It's at an all-time high. So they know that they can be stopped. But yeah, we do have to act sooner than later, because there will become a point where it'll be the point of no return. Some people would say we're already there, but I still think they can be undone. Their agenda can be undone. I'm just going to throw this out there too. In light of the other story that we talked about today, the death of Jean Kennedy at 92, World War II did end on 9/2, didn't it? Yeah, both these women's deaths in the headlines today. And, you know, Kennedy's known for, you know, almost stopping the Vietnam War before his assassination. Don't forget that happened in 63, 19 years before 82, the year of the computer, 19 years before 2001, 2001 A Space Odyssey, about technology taking over, 2020, 19 years later. I'll show you guys something real quick. The word age equals 68, right? Age. Remember, 1968, the year all those big things went down. From coronavirus being coined, to 911 being made, to the World Trade Center construction, 2001 A Space Odyssey. If you look up the 1968 Cannes Film Festival, it began with Gone with the Wind. And Gone with the Wind was just banned by HBO until it can be culturally reframed, so they're going to have to edit it somehow, because it's not right for the period of time we live in, the age we live in. But Gone with the Wind opened up the 1968 Cannes Film Festival, and it didn't complete that year, the film festival, because it ended with protesting and rioting. And then this announcement made during the time of the protesting and rioting from George Floyd and the other related stories. But anyway, age 1968. That's the year 2001 A Space Odyssey came out, about, you know, technology overtaking man. Look at what technology equals in the most pure cipher. 52. 52 years later, right? They like that number for prophecy. Prophecy's 52. They got people with this slogan right now, I Can't Breathe, 52. Story out of Minnesota, 52, that hosted Super Bowl 52, a Super Bowl we called correctly in week 3. We said why it'd be the Eagles versus the Patriots on September 23rd, 23/9, like 2:39, the 52nd prime, because it was all about the flag that year and the protests of the flag and taking a knee. Taking a knee. Colin Kaepernick. And the flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street, the U.S. flag, 239 Arch Street, the 52nd prime, Philadelphia, the home of the flag, versus the Patriots with the flag on their helmet. So yeah, Minnesota's 110 and 52. Prophecy, 110, 52. The World Trade Center is 110 stories tall. Minnesota 110. First plane hits at 8:46 in the morning. George Floyd with the knee on the neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And the list goes on. Look up Crimson Contagion. The drill that estimates 110 million people catch the pandemic. That was from 2019. All right, you guys, I got to get back to work. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys can hit the like button, I don't see many likes. Must have been a bad stream. If you guys can share the video, if you can tell somebody about it, that would be great. So, again, thank you, everyone. And back to work. Never enough hours in a day. Until next time, Truth Seeker.